Tonight's story will be the end of our island theme for the week. If you have a theme suggestion, please leave it in a comment below. Now, to the story, The Terror of Moana Reva. The sea was a dark and infinite thing, both giver and taker of life. Off the turquoise shores of Bora Bora, where the water turned to the fathomless blue of the Pacific, fishermen knew to respect its power. For centuries, their livelihoods had depended on its bounty, and their survival depended on knowing its moods. But beneath the rhythmic sway of the ocean's surface lay shadows that carried stories, legends whispered across generations, warnings as old as the islands themselves. Among them was the tale of Te Rai Makuto, the cursed maw, a beast of the deep with hunger of a shark and the mind of a man. Its body was said to be a grotesque fusion of predator and human, its long, muscled arms capable of dragging men into the depths faster than any net could pull in a haul. Yet no one spoke of it openly. It was taboo to even say its name, much less question its existence. The old men at the village would nod solemnly when it was mentioned, their silence more telling than any tale. And so, it was understood the sea had its rules, and those who broke them risked meeting the maw. The morning started calm, the kind of calm that lures men into trusting the sea. Captain Tanoa stood at the helm of the Tamario Te Moana, a modest fishing vessel with weathered planks and rusting nails that had weathered decades of storms. Tanoa was a veteran of the waters, his face as craggy as the volcanic cliffs of the islands he called home. Besides him were his two sons, Etera and Manu, and their apprentice, a boy named Piri, who barely looked old enough to handle a fishing line. The catch had been meager that week, and desperation clung to their movements. The island's festivals were approaching, and families expected fresh tuna and mahi-mahi to grace their tables. Tanoa pushed the boat further than he ever had, skirting the reefs that marked the border between safety and open ocean. The water shimmered like glass beneath the rising sun, but the depths held a chill. By midday, the nets were heavy with promise. Tuna thrashed in their woven confines, silver bodies catching the light, but the men's joy was short-lived. Atera was the first to notice it, a silence that shouldn't exist. The gulls, always a raucous chorus above a fishing boat, had gone quiet. The rhythmic lapping of the waves against the hull seemed muffled, swallowed by an unseen presence.
Papa,
Atera muttered, pointing towards the horizon. At first, Tanoa didn't see it. Then it appeared, a dark shape, too large to be a fish, gliding beneath the surface. It moved with a deliberate, eerie grace, circling the boat like a predator, sizing up its prey. The men exchanged uneasy glances. Piri whispered a prayer under his breath. When the wave came, it was sudden and unnatural. The rogue swell rose from the depths, an impossible wall of water that slammed into the Tamario Te Moana, tipping it on one side. nets spilled overboard, taking half the catch with them, and Peary screamed as he was thrown against the railing. The engine sputtered, then died with a wheeze, leaving the vessel adrift. "Get the lines," Tanoa barked, but his voice carried no confidence. Manu scrambled to the engine, cursing under his breath as he tried to restart it. The others hauled in what nets they could, the remaining tuna writhing in panic. The shadow returned, closer this time. Its shape was unmistakable now. A massive, shark-like body with limbs that defied nature. Long, sinewy arms with webbed fingers broke the surface, clawing through the water with terrifying speed. "It's here," Atera whispered, his voice hollow. The first strike came without warning. A loud crack echoed as something hit the hull, splintering wood and knocking the men off their feet. The boat rocked violently, and Peary, too slow to grab hold of the railing, tumbled into the water. "Peary!" Atera shouted. But the boy was already gone, pulled under so quickly, there wasn't even time for a scream. The water turned red. Panic set in. "The shore," Tawana said, his voice shaking. "We swim to the shore. It's too far," Manu protested, but Tanoa was already tying a length of rope around his waist. One by one, they slipped into the water, the island's distant silhouette their only hope. The silence was deafening beneath the waves, each stroke through the water feeling like an invitation to the unseen predator below. The second attack came swiftly. Manu was the strongest swimmer, forging ahead of the others, but strength meant nothing against the maw. It breached the water behind him, its pale, human-like arms wrapping around his chest. He struggled, his screams muffled by the sea as the creature dragged him under. Atera cried out, but Tanoa grabbed his arm. "Don't look back," the old man growled. Hours passed. Each minute felt like an eternity as the remaining two swam for their lives. The shore seemed no closer, and exhaustion clawed at their limbs. Atera was the next to fall. He was just a few strokes behind Tanoa when the maw surfaced again. This time, the creature's face was visible, elongated with rows of jagged teeth that jutted out unnaturally. Its eyes, dark and unblinking, locked onto Atera as it lunged. Tanoa didn't look back. He couldn't. When he reached the shore, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the sand. Tanoa collapsed onto the beach, coughing up seawater. His body trembled with exhaustion and grief, but he was alive. The villagers found him there, half mad and raving about the creature that had taken his sons and the boy. They asked no questions. They simply nodded, their silence a confirmation of the unspoken truth. The maw had claimed its due. Tanoa never returned to the sea. The Tamari o Te Moana was never found, and the names of his sons were added to the long list of those lost to the ocean's depths. And quiet nights, when the waves lapped against the shore and the wind carried the faint smell of salt and blood, the fishermen whispered their prayers, knowing the maw was still out there, waiting.